kind of gift to give me. I'm going to miss you, Michael Patrick Flanagan, State Superintendent of Schools. Thanks for being with us.
Going to miss you too, Michael Patrick.
Well, you're going to be around. You're still going to live in town, right?
Yeah, we're going to be here. We've got 5 grandkids under 5, so we've got some fun to do, and I'm going to write a book when this is done.
No kidding. Do you know what the title is yet?
Not a way to run an airline.
Honestly, that's it?
No, but I do have some.
I can see why you call it that.
It's just, a lot of the systems, good example, I know you want to talk a little bit about testing, but a good example is that you've got federal and state laws that intersect in weird ways. The testing has gone overdone, to say the least, and then the department carries out the law. Having said all that, we make the best of it, but I think my book's going to be along the lines of how to better focus on the kids and less on the adults.
Speaking of the kids, what do you make of this potential legislation now? It's a state representative, Stephanie Chang from Detroit. She's a Democrat, and she thinks that if you're going to homeschool kids, you ought to register them with a local school district and check in twice a year with the medical, government, or law enforcement authorities, just, so they know everything's going okay.
I haven't thought enough about that yet. I know there's an issue related to safety, obviously, with the kids in in Detroit that were murdered. But I think that's a more complicated issue than just trying to stereotype it as homeschooling. We've got violence, unfortunately, on kids all over the place. So I'm not familiar with that legislation, and I probably just should shut up about it for now.
Okay, well, that'll make Phil Pavlov happy, the state senator, because he doesn't want it to see the light of day. But I just thought it was curious. And it would seem to, make sense to me that if you're going to homeschool kids, at least the local school district know where they are. And, it might be nice to touch base once in a while. It seems to me it couldn't hurt. Yeah. But the other topic that I know, that this was quite interesting to me, the day after, or maybe 2 days after the M-STEP testing, a press release went out from the Department of Education that, that everything went well, and it was sort of a confirmation email that it's underway. And then the very next day comes a release from the MEA president saying, don't use any of the data because it didn't go well. Which is the truth?
Well, Steve and I are friends, and we talked about this. The bottom line is I'm not sure why they continued to put that press release out that way, because I've made a decision as state superintendent 6 months ago that we wouldn't count the data this year, and we won't count the data next year. There's 2 reasons, really. One is not just, if anything, schools should be thinking about this almost as a practice year, because, of course, there's going to be some startup issues. But we've done 1 million test sessions, and virtually, I visited a school the other day on purpose and popped in at Wyandotte, which is a downriver.
That's where I grew up, Wyandotte.
Was it? Really?
Yeah.
Boy, all the schools are named after presidents. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's not one named after me, that's for sure.
Well, it's coming. It's coming, I'm sure. But they genuinely attested to me. They haven't had one issue, and I think most of it is because of their own planning. They planned for this, but from a statewide point of view, when you're doing 1 million tests so far, and we've got 1.5 million kids, they're in 4,000 classrooms spread around the state. It's the first year we're doing it. We gave everyone an option to continue the paper and pencil if they wanted, and about 18% of the districts are doing that. So, the reason that I don't understand what Steve and the MEA are doing, frankly, is that I've already decided there wouldn't be any use of that data in any way. So they knew that and continued to put it out anyway. I'm not sure what's going on there.
So
they're good people. They're trying to do the best for their teachers, but it's a non-issue.
Why the saber rattling? I wonder. Then is there some sort of political advantage to it?
I don't know. I don't want to judge that. I'm at a point where just the facts are that we're not going to use that data for teachers, for students, or to name schools. And we would have, frankly, not just because we're going online. My wife, Anna, speaking about retirement, is thinking, so you had to do this your last couple of months? 40 years we've had the MEEP. It's a jalopy. And suddenly we not only get a new test, which is a much better test for kids, much more relevant to today's needs, but then said, let's try to go online and let's try to get results back to teachers quickly. This is insane that we're not doing this in a technological way. So we've been working 3 years on it. Most of the districts have done a great job in planning, because a lot of this has to do with how ready they are at their end. I know one school that called, and to their credit, they took the blame for this, but they said, oh my gosh, the reason ours didn't go well that morning is we never checked the headphones. and some of the headphones weren't working when the kids plugged in. So, it takes a lot of people to make this work, but genuinely it's overwhelmingly going really well. We have Tiger teams, we call them, that go out to districts if there's some kind of technology problem. But all aside, there's no consequences for this year, other than I think when teachers see data, it helps them understand are their kids, in the right direction, and that would be for them to decide.
80% of the students, for instance, finished the English language portion of their exam within the 2 hours allowed for. But I guess if the headphones weren't working, that's a time-sensitive issue. And there were some isolated incidents of struggles around the state. The headphones are one of them. Are there any others you can think of?
Oh, it's things like that. There's bandwidth issues sometimes.
Yeah,
I mean,
sure.
people, the state and the legislature, I give them credit, have put a lot of money into trying to help us build up the technology infrastructure, over $100 million the last number of years. So this has not only helped for the testing issue, this has helped situate districts to get, more technology ready anyway for everything else that they need to do. So, we're overall very pleased. I appreciate people putting up with some of the inconveniences and the change, but overall it's going well. And, if I had to say anything, what I'm going to try to do in my book and other places is we need less testing. I would certainly agree with that. But the state and federal law is what it is right now, and we are complying with that, and I'll work to try to reduce some of it. But to say we don't need any testing to try to see how our kids are doing and how our schools are doing, that's kind of another extreme.
Well, let's keep in close touch, and he is going to be the state superintendent of schools turned author and full-time grandfather.